everyone. Welcome to another awesome video by Beck and I. And today we are going to talk to you all about this fabulous topic of self-concept. Self-concept is basically a sense of who you think you are. It is your identity and how you move through the world. It is how you see yourself, along with your constant thoughts, beliefs, and values, which allow you to make decisions and make choices that impact your life directly or indirectly. So this is a really big concept, a very overarching concept that covers things like self-esteem, self-image, self-worth, how you react to things, how you respond to things. And while you're listening to this, you now must be suddenly thinking that, oh my gosh, there are so many things under this, and there are so many things determine your sense of self-concept. So then how do you start to understand who you are? And where do you even start to break down this concept? So today we are going to explain a little bit about what creates your sense of self-concept, what life experiences and how your external environment contributes to who you become as an adult and as an individual later on in life. And that is extremely important because how we have grown up, the kind of thoughts and beliefs and values that we have absorbed from our environment, through our parents, through our teachers, or through the world, what we see in media, all of these things basically impact the reality that we create for ourselves in our life. And this is super important because who doesn't want an abundant life? Who doesn't want a simple, aligned, beautiful, just like this fun life full of freedom? But often then it's our conditioning, it's our thoughts, it's the way we look at ourselves that stops us from making empowered choices. Because somewhere in this whole conditioning are also a lot of negative things that we took on from the environment. There are a lot of self-limiting beliefs that we took on from the environment. And now they've just become such a massive part of who we are as individuals that we don't even know which one of these thoughts are actually ours and which one of these are adopted from the environment.
Yeah, that's a fantastic introduction, Parul. Thank you. I love what you just hit on there. Because of all of these things that we're brought up with, our beliefs, our values from our caregivers, teachers, parents, all of those, we do get to a point in life where we don't even know what is our own belief or what is a belief that we've taken on from someone else. And that's okay. Everybody's exactly the same because generally we're not taught to question these things because quite often our parents, our caregivers didn't even realize that was what was happening to them. So, it carries on from generation to generation. But it's, you watching this video series, you've already realized something about this, that perhaps there is a change that you want to make, or perhaps you just want to know a little bit more about how you form this. Maybe it's because you want to have a different impact on your own children or nieces and nephews, and that's why you've taken an interest in this. So yeah, I think and I think just to bring this back to self-concept, it really is who you think you are. Like you said at the beginning, it's your identity, understanding what role you play to achieve your purpose and how you actually think about yourself. And if you've already watched the video on the filters of the mind, this is going to make a lot of sense to you. We didn't go into a lot of detail at that time about beliefs and values, but this will start to bring things together for you.
Yes, amazing. Yeah, and thank you for highlighting how it's a cycle that pretty much carries on in our society, right? So let's say we absorb something, our parents absorb something from their parents because of the lack of awareness or whatever was happening at that time in their environment. So they just adopted a set of beliefs and values from their environment, their parents, their teachers, their guardians. And then that was passed on to us to an extent. And then when we were kids, we were like sponges. So we are completely responding to our environment because we're also living in we're pretty much in our subconscious mind till the age of 7. And we will go deeper into these stages just in a moment. So let's say we then absorbed all of these things, and then we grew up into these individuals reacting to situations in a certain way, feeling defensive, feeling like we're not good enough, or also feeling amazing in parts because simply based on what response we received from the environment when we were behaving in a certain way as kids. And then let's say we just choose not to do the work, or we're not aware that these things have impacted us, and we continue to live life the same way. We then have kids and we pass the same things to our kids. So we really then just continuing the cycle of these unhelpful patterns, which isn't helping our future generations. So a really big part of also becoming aware of these things and working on ourselves and choosing to consciously understand and deconstruct these things it's such a big part of improving the lives of your kids even, or the lives of the future generation. So it almost feels like, now that we're in, I am in this work, it almost feels like this responsibility to, work on myself. So then when I have kids or anyone that I interact with, I am doing my part of not passing on that trauma, not passing on those unhelpful beliefs and patterns anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point you make, Parul. It's the first step is obviously awareness, and that's why you're here. You're now aware of it, but awareness is not enough. It's the first step to say, I'm aware that I've got these patterns that potentially are now impacting those people around me, whether they're your children or friends or family. But it's then what you do after that is the really important part. And I can see that in your life. You're doing it. You're doing the work. You're not just saying, I don't want these things that I know have affected my life to affect my kids. So I'm actually taking steps. And I want to make that really clear that is the important part. It's the action that you take. It's the things that you do to change these patterns, whether it be working with a coach, whether it be taking on some of the tools that we recommend to our clients or to our audience, whatever it might be, it's about taking action. So awareness first, but then it's the action part. What are you going to do? What are you going to change? How are you going to do that?
Totally. And it's not going to be easy because we have spent 30, 40, 50 years of our lives living a certain way. We just didn't know any better. So we've literally absorbed everything that was coming our way, right? So it's going to be, yes, hard in parts to undo those layers, to then find your own true identity. But it is worth every effort, because take it from us, we were literally, before recording this video, we were both just talking about how much this work is empowering us as individuals, as women, and how much it's helping us make those conscious choices in life. And also just how amazing it feels to be knowing that I am consciously co-creating my life with the universe, and I'm not just falling prey to it's not just giving into all these random things that I was told by society that I should feel, or I should behave in a certain way, or I should make these XYZ choices in spite of me being wired differently to potentially make different choices for myself. So there is a lot of empowerment. There is a lot of joy in doing it when you do start to enjoy the process of truly connecting with yourself, understanding yourself, and really shining that inner diamond that you are, but without the external noise and external layers.
Yeah, saying that it's not going to be easy, it is going to be hard. I guess it's as hard as you make it also, isn't it? But yes. The question I would ask yourself is, how hard is it to be stuck here in this space? How hard is it to feel anxious, overwhelmed, like life is tough, to feel this fear all the time? How hard is it to not go out and do the things that I want to do? How hard is it to watch my children taking on these things that I don't necessarily like about myself? This is actually the hard part. Okay, the work that we do on ourselves, while it may push us into an uncomfortable space for a little while, it's actually easier to do that work than to stay where you are. So I just want to highlight that, what do they say? Small time pain for long-term gain.
Yes, exactly. And how hard is it to be unhappy with where you're at, to be unfulfilled with your dreams and your desires, and thinking about other people all the time, right? It's like, it's almost like we are also told how we should feel. So like an example of this is, if you're choosing yourself in a situation, you should feel guilty. You are selfish. But you're not, because really everything else around you is determined by your connection to yourself. And if you're not happy, if you're not making aligned choices for yourself, you're not going to show up happily for people around you. You have that inner sense of resistance and this inner sense of friction, which is going to come out as reactions to other people. You know, you might like snub them. You might like just, what's the word? You might just like brush them aside if you're not happy, you know. But if your cup is full, you're going to show up in that full radiance and love and joy, and that's going to inspire others to live their life on purpose and live their authentic life.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's dive into where does the sense of self-concept come from? So when we are born, we basically are like this new sponge, and we are completely open and susceptible to our environment and what messaging and behaviors we see around us. So till the age of 0 to 7, like I said earlier, we're working in our subconscious, and we're completely open to the kind of things that we see around our parents. So that is the time when we are really taking on the beliefs and values from our environment. And then comes our phase of 7 to 14 years, which is essentially the stage where we are starting to see the environment around us. We're starting to engage with it. So that's the phase, if you remember from your childhood, but that's the phase when you're essentially mimicking the celebrities, you know, like you're looking at how people are around you. And so that's the time when you start to think about, well, I want to be like this. I want to embody these qualities, or I like this person, I want to be like them. And then from 14 to 21 is the time when you really start to put yourself out in the world, you know, like your sense of self starts to develop, but it is largely still governed by your external situations. Because again, if you go back to this phase in your life, you were a teenager who was completely obsessed with how people think about you, how much of an impression you're making on your teachers, and you were being told by your parents that you're this and that because you want to be a rebel, you want your independence, you want to do things a certain way. So it was all these things that were making yourself a sense of identity all the way till the age of 21. And I'm sure if you zoom out a little, look back at your life, you can see that you probably had no real idea of, or no true idea of who you are, except for the feedback that you were getting from your environment.
And each of these periods in our life, there is a name for each of them. You know, as Parul has explained, that 0 to 7 age, that's our imprint period. That's when others' beliefs and values are being imprinted on us. That's that sponge, like we just take on absolutely everything. And I think, as you said at the beginning, Parul, we largely live until the age of 7 in our unconscious. We are not, clearly we are physically conscious, but we're not actually conscious of all of these things around us. We are just simply taking in as much information as possible. And that's why, a lot of people say, oh, be careful about what you say around children, or be mindful of little ears, because they actually do take all of this information in that imprint period. The second portion of that you talked about, that 7 years to 14 years, when we're really trying things on, that's our modeling period. I remember being that age, and I was obsessed with movies and music, and I wanted to be like the movie stars. You want to wear what they wear, you want to act like them, and so we really are modeling these basic behaviors that we see other people. Or if you've got older siblings, and you see them with their friends, you try and be like them, don't you? Try to model them, because you're just trying. It's like trying clothes on. You're trying different personalities on. Yeah. And so it's almost like we're acting at that age, because we haven't quite figured out who we are. So we want to try on a few different personalities. And then that period of 14 to 21 years, that's the socialization period. So that's when we form that basic core relationship, or those social values, and we retain those really for the rest of our lives, unless or until we come across something like this and we go, well, hang on a second, is this it? Surely I can change if there is something that you want to change about yourself. So that's the imprint period, the modeling period, and the socialization period.
That makes so much sense, right? Because in each of those phases, we have specific characteristics, specific things happening, which are leading to us becoming someone. And so I just want to summarize by saying that so those are the factors that contribute to your sense of self-concept. And self-concept it covers all of these different things. So like your self-esteem, self-worth, self-image, self-awareness. And so that means that it basically encompasses everything. So how you see yourself, how you value yourself, how you think, and even how you feel. Because often now you can debate that, well, my feelings are like, it's just like no one can impact how I feel, because feelings are just very natural. But if you look at it scientifically, your thoughts are creating your feelings. And if you, again, zoom out and look at certain situations in your life, how many times did you feel guilty in the past just because you think you should feel guilty? How many times was that feeling impacted by the ideas that you had taken on from the environment? So self-concept is all of these things, which is why it is really important for you to start to break it down and really figure out, well, who are you without these ideas, right? And I largely think that right now I am in that phase of life where, I've stepped out of my relationship. I have been very careful about the kind of boundaries I want to have with certain people in my family, and the kind of me time and experiences that I need to really understand who I am as an individual without the relationships or without the ideas that were defining me until now in my life. Let's now start to talk to you about, well, now you know what self-concept is. Now you know what has created your sense of self-concept. And now it's the most important part of, well, great. So I know this and I know this, but how do I move forward from here? So what are the steps that I can take or that you can take to start to deconstruct your sense of self-concept and build yourself almost anew? And this isn't as scary as it sounds. It's actually a very, very fun process, trust me. So the first step is really to get back to the root of the emotions that are causing you to behave in a certain way, the root of the events that happened in your life, which caused you to behave in a certain way. Because we often repeat patterns from our past unless we consciously choose to break those patterns. So now we have spoken a lot about self-concept? What is self-concept? Where does it emerge from? And we finally want to come to the last part of our video, which is how can you start to make a change? How can you start to deconstruct this idea of self-concept, which maybe hasn't been serving you very well so far, and really start to consciously create your life? So we're going to divide this in 3 parts as well. Step 1 is to start to understand the source of your emotions, the past events, the root cause of your reactions. Like, why do you feel defensive in certain situations? Why do you react the way you do? And where are these things stemming from? Where are these patterns stemming from? So start to analyze and let go of the negative emotions that you have been instructed to feel. For example, being angry if someone behaves with you in a certain way. Maybe there is nothing to be personal, to take personally in that situation, but because you were made to feel a certain way, when something like that, when a similar behavior happened in your childhood, you might just be repeating that same pattern. And the other person may not even be trying to hurt you in that situation. They might simply be coming from whatever's happening inside them for them. So step 1 is to start to pay attention to your reactions, to your emotions, and understand where are they coming from. And once again, it helps to do these things with a coach who can safely take you back to a past, maybe a traumatic event or a heavy event, and start to undo these imprints. It's okay to trust someone else to take you to that space safely, because once you release yourself from the burden of that past event, which has left an emotional imprint on you, you are going to show up like a completely different person in a much lighter, happier state than you have been so far. So we understand the fears, and we definitely do it because we've been doing this work on ourselves, and we're coming from a very embodied place when we talk to you guys about these things. So we understand the fear, we understand the hesitation, but we would highly encourage you to find someone you feel you can trust and go to those edgy places with them so you can release yourself from the grips of the past.
Absolutely. Well said.
Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to the second point. Now, the second one is about your beliefs. So we've looked at the past events and emotions that have been causing you to show up in a certain way. And now beliefs are a huge part of the choices that you make for yourself in life. So for example, let's say when I was younger, I was constantly told that I'm slow, I'm dumb, I'm not very intelligent. And so when I grew up, my main, like the thing that unconsciously used to impact all the choices that I made in life was I'll have to work hard. I'm slow. I'm not cool enough to interact with this group of people. And, or, it's like if I chose to do something, I constantly questioned myself till I really had to be brave and strong enough to put myself out there. But when I started to deconstruct these beliefs in the last 2 years, the new beliefs that I have, which have come from constant work with a coach and constant reinforcement of my strengths and my successes and what I've achieved in life so far, those beliefs are just so beautiful and so empowering that now I see myself completely differently. And that's why the choices that I'm making, the people I'm surrounded by, what's happening in my life is completely different from what was happening a few years ago. So your beliefs are huge. Your beliefs impact the choices that you make and hence the life that you create massively. And if there was one thing that I would recommend you do right now, it would be to question your limiting beliefs. Anything that's telling you that you're not good enough, you're not cool enough, you are XYZ, and hence you can't do this thing. Maybe you feel that you're not good looking enough, or that you can't get lucky with meeting the right partner, or that you can't make a lot of money. No, it's all of these beliefs which have been limiting you, and you can choose to stop bullying yourself and completely create a different reality for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something to think about here also is how we put these beliefs onto other people almost unconsciously as well. And perhaps if we can add another example in here, how many of us have had a friend who perhaps has been going through a bit of a hard time, perhaps they're not feeling 100%, or they've got a lot on their plate, or they've been ill even, and we reach out to them and that we say, look, anything you need, I'm here for you. If you need a meal cooked, if you need me to look after the kids, if you need me to pick anything up for you, and we genuinely would be there for them if they asked us to help them out. But very rarely does that person reach out. And then when the tables are turned, when we're not well, when we're under pressure, and somebody else says the same thing to us, please, what can I do for you? Let me know. And we're like, no, I'm fine. This, even though the tables are turned and we know that our offer was genuine, something happens when the tables are flipped, because we perhaps have this belief instilled in us from when we were young that we don't ask for help. To ask for help is a weakness. We should be strong. We should be able to stand on our own 2 feet. There's that S word again, should. It's a terrible word that that shouldn't be in our vocabulary, right? That we need to remove from our vocabulary. But this is a deep instilled belief that we have, that we need to be able to stand on our own 2 feet. So this is an example of one of those limiting beliefs that we probably don't even realize is there, that's potentially stopping us from reaching out to someone in a time of need, even though we know that we would genuinely be there for our friend in the same instance.
Totally. And it's like, as you were saying that, I was just thinking, imagine what a happy world this could be, or a happy little community we could be, if all of us were just like willing to be open, reach out to someone if they can help. Yes, if they can't, that's okay. And likewise, we extended ourselves to people genuinely, because a lot of us have complementary skills. We have, and not just that, it's really just about being there for someone. It's really just about spreading that kindness and love and joy. But we hold ourselves back when really a simple act could just of reaching out or offering help could really just bring us all closer together.
Yeah, because we love helping each other, don't we? There's very few people in my circle who don't love to be needed, or don't love to be wanted. I truly believe that the majority of people deep down are good people. They want to do good in the world, and that starts in their own community, and hopefully that spreads to a larger community. So I think we genuinely have that need and that want. So perhaps that's the first place to start when you're using our workbook, and we're perhaps asking you, what are these beliefs that are potentially holding you back? Start with that one.
Totally. Yes. Question your beliefs and choose to act differently. Okay. And finally, the last step in this is to choose your values wisely. Like, question your values. So often, a lot of us grow up, and again, we spend like 2/3 of our lives thinking, I know my values. I'm loyal, honest, I am kind, all of those things. Yes. And are these values really yours though? Like, have you really dug into them to see, well, why are you choosing loyalty? Not that there's anything wrong with that value, but like, what is the base of this value for you? Why are you choosing honesty? How does that make you feel? How does that impact your decisions? What are some of your other values? Could one of your values be freedom, which you have never explored or really thought about or looked at, but you are sitting in your office looking outside the window, wanting to do remote work? So when you get clear on these values, when you get clear about your beliefs, they basically start to form a clear idea of who you are when you connect with yourself, when you are alone and without any external influence. So values is a big one to start diving into with someone, especially because it can be hard to change the values, that core values that we have grown up with, but it's something that can be done with proper help and with proper interruption.
Yeah, and this is a very powerful process, visiting your values and potentially changing them. It's a process that I take all of my clients through at the beginning when we start coaching, but it's often something that everybody has a little bit of trouble with because we're not taught to question our values in general. I know there's some wonderful people out there who do bring their children up to question and revisit their values, but as a general rule, we're not taught to create our own values or question the values that we have. And like you said, Parul, we don't dig down into those. If it is loyalty, honesty, and integrity, they tend to be the top three that people come up with. Where have they come from? Why is loyalty so important? What does it actually mean? I mean, my dog is loyal to me, I think. What does that actually mean? What does honesty mean? And with the other people in your life, perhaps a partner, does it mean the same thing to them? This is why it's really important to understand A, what your values are, but B, what do they actually mean to you? What are your non-negotiables? Have you discussed this with your nearest and dearest? Do they actually understand what that value means to you and how it's going to show up in your life and how you want it to show up from them? Are you aligned? And you'll know what your top values are when you sit in that and you actually have a think about how you live your life. I could say that health is my top value, but if my daily life doesn't include shopping for nutritious food, meal prep, considering what I do and don't want to put in my body for fuel, if it doesn't include daily movement, if it doesn't include mindfulness, then I know that health is actually not my top value. I can say it is, but it's obviously not because it's not showing up in my life. So this is how you will actually get to understand what your values are and what you want them to be. And there is a process involved that either Parul and I can take you through to look at shifting these values, but be prepared to put the work in. Okay, this is one of those things that it's a very, pardon the pun, but it's a valuable exercise to do, but it is one that takes effort.
Yeah, so we're going to leave you with one last suggestion: to be creative with your life. Be creative with all of these things, start by questioning the choices that you're making, the way you're thinking, the way you're reacting, your beliefs, your values. Invest in yourself, work with someone if you feel that you're stuck or you're currently feeling anxious about something. Normally, the heavy emotions that you feel consistently in life or at certain point where you might be transitioning into another phase of life are a good indicator that it's a good time to invest in yourself and seek out help. And there is, once again, there is nothing wrong in asking for help, because we also can sometimes have a little taboo around, oh, I've never seen a therapist, I don't need a coach, and I've got it all together. But if you're feeling the wobbles at a stage in life right now, then it's definitely worth reaching out and having a chat to someone. Trust me, you'll be doing yourself a favor. And yeah, so just, start to get creative with yourself, with your life. Start to think about the boundaries that have been placed on you, like the same old cycle that you might be stuck in because that's just what you saw your parents do, or that's what you're seeing is normal in the world. And just start to choose differently, think differently, and show up differently for yourself.
Yeah, fantastic note to end on. Thank you, Parul. And our details are on the screen now. So if you have any questions or you'd like to take this a little bit further, please do get in touch. We love to hear your feedback. We'd love to know what other topics you want to hear about. So thank you once again for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.